Alibaba, the house that Jack Ma built, by Duncan Clark. Picture this. It's 1995, and you're in a foreign country for the very first time, thousands of miles from anything familiar. Just days earlier, you found yourself in a seriously sketchy situation, held against your will by some shady businessman in a beach house in Malibu, with guns involved. You managed to escape, won a bit of money at a Las Vegas casino of all places, and used it to fly to Seattle. You're broke, rattled, but safe, with a friend's relative who's about to show you something that will blow your mind. He sits you down in front of a computer and, with just a few clicks, opens up a window to the entire world. It's called the Internet. You can find anything on here, he tells you. Naturally, you're skeptical. You type in the first word that pops into your head, beer. Instantly, pages appear. American beer, German beer, Japanese beer. But something's missing. You try another word, China. Nothing. Absolute silence. It's as if your entire country, with billions of people and thousands of years of history, simply doesn't exist in this strange new digital universe. For most people, this would just be an interesting observation. But for the man at that keyboard, a former English teacher from Hangzhou named Jack Ma, it wasn't just interesting. It was everything. In that moment, staring at that gaping void where China should have been, a spark ignited. A vision that would eventually lead him to build an empire larger than Amazon and eBay combined, culminating in the biggest stock market debut in history, a jaw-dropping $25 billion offering. This is the story of Alibaba, but more importantly, it's the story of the man who built it. A man who bombed his college entrance exams twice, got rejected from dozens of jobs, including one at KFC, and was told he wasn't smart enough or tall enough to succeed. A man people called Crazy Jack. Today, we're diving into Duncan Clark's fascinating book, Alibaba, the house that Jack Ma built. Here's my promise. By the end, you'll understand the three pillars holding up this empire, what Jack calls his iron triangle. But more than that, you'll discover the mindset of a man who saw a world that didn't exist yet and simply decided to build it himself. This isn't just a business story. It's a masterclass in persistence, vision, and the kind of beautiful madness that actually changes the world. Our story doesn't start in some fancy boardroom or Silicon Valley garage. It begins in the 1970s in a city called Hangzhou, famous for its stunning West Lake. This is where a young boy named Ma Yun, later known as Jack, launched his first real venture. He was just a teenager with a burning obsession, learning English. Every morning before dawn, he'd bike 40 minutes to a local hotel just to offer free tours to foreign tourists. For 9 years straight, rain or shine, he showed up, practicing his English and learning about a world far beyond the borders of post-revolutionary China. During this time, he befriended an Australian family, the Morleys. They became pen pals, patiently correcting his English in letters that traveled across the ocean. This friendship changed everything. They invited him to visit Australia, his first time ever leaving China. He later recalled, "Everything I'd learned in China said that China was the richest country in the world. When I got to Australia, I realized it was completely different. I started to understand you have to use your own mind to judge, to think." That trip opened his eyes. The Morleys even helped him buy his first apartment. It was a simple act of kindness that planted a seed about the power of global connection. But the world certainly didn't welcome him with open arms. School was a struggle, especially math. He failed his college entrance exam, the Gaokao, twice. Once, he scored an absolutely dismal 1 out of 120 on the math section. He applied everywhere for jobs and heard no, again and again. He even applied to be a police officer and was flat out told, "You're no good." When KFC opened and he applied, along with 23 others, all 23 got hired. He was the only rejection. Think about that for a second. How many times can someone hear no before they just give up? For Jack, apparently there was no limit. He finally scraped through on his third attempt at the exam and got into what he called a third or fourth class teacher's college. He became an English teacher earning next to nothing, but he was a natural. He had this gift for communication, a sort of showmanship, likely inherited from his parents, who performed ping tan, a traditional Chinese storytelling art. He loved teaching, but something pulled him toward bigger things. In the early 90s, as China opened up, entrepreneurship was in the air. Jack started a side hustle, a translation agency called Hope. It was tough going. Rent was $300 monthly, but his first month brought in barely $20. To survive, he sold flowers, books, even plastic carpets on the street. He was a very long way from billionaire status. Then came the trip that changed everything. A nearby county government needed an interpreter to help settle a dispute with an American company over a highway project. They sent Jack to the United States. This is where our opening scene took place. The deal fell apart. The American partner was a crook, and Jack found himself in genuine danger, actually held in that Malibu beach house. He escaped and made it to Seattle, and there, in 1995, he touched a computer keyboard and discovered the internet. He typed beer, results from everywhere. He typed China. Nothing, complete emptiness. But where most people would see nothing, Jack saw everything. He saw possibility. He returned to China, transformed, carrying not a highway contract, but a computer and an idea. He quit teaching and, with a friend, launched his second venture, China Pages, an online directory for Chinese businesses. The catch? Almost nobody in his city had internet access. He was selling something his customers literally couldn't see. He'd collect their information, mail it to contacts in Seattle for uploading, who'd mail back printed screenshots of the live pages. He'd show clients these printouts and say, "Believe me, you're online." For 3 years, he said, people treated him like a con artist. Even worse, a powerful state-owned telecom company saw his idea, copied it, and basically forced him into a joint venture where they held all the cards. They seized control, constantly vetoing his ideas. He described it as being, quote, a blind man riding on the back of blind tigers. He'd lost control of his own creation. It was a painful failure, but it taught him something crucial. Never let outside investors have too much control, and never, ever partner with the government. He vowed to lead with wisdom and vision, not just capital. Defeated but not broken, Jack moved to Beijing for a government ministry job, helping build trade websites. It was safe but soul-crushing. He was completely out of his element, watching from the sidelines as China's first internet entrepreneurs, the founders of Sina, Sohu, and NetEase, were becoming famous, inspired by Yahoo's rise in America. During this period, something important happened. His department asked him to tour guide for a visiting American executive. That executive was Jerry Yang, Yahoo's co-founder. Jack took him to the Great Wall, and a photo of them together would later become an important symbol of Jack's early connections to the global internet world. But Jack knew his destiny wasn't pushing papers for the government. In late 1998, on that same Great Wall, he gathered his most trusted colleagues and plotted his return. He was going back to Hangzhou to try one more time. This time would be different. On a chilly February day in 1999, Jack assembled 17 friends and his wife Kathy in his small apartment in the Lakeside Gardens complex. The moment was so significant to him that he had it filmed. In that grainy footage, you can see him, this small man with enormous presence, pacing back and forth, passionately laying out his vision. He told them, "Our competitors aren't in China, they're in Silicon Valley." He wanted to build an international website that would last 102 years, spanning 3 centuries. The mission? Connect China's millions of small businesses, the shrimp, as he called them, with the world. He drew inspiration from his favorite movie, Forrest Gump. American business-to-business sites are whales, he explained, but 85% of fish in the sea are shrimp-sized. I've seen many people making money from shrimp. He asked everyone to chip in money. Together they scraped up about $60,000. He warned them this would be brutally hard. "Today is brutal," he said, using one of his favorite lines. "Tomorrow is more brutal. But the day after tomorrow is beautiful. However, most people die tomorrow night." He promised that if they succeeded, they wouldn't just get this small apartment. They'd get 50 apartments like it. Everyone put their money in. They worked around the clock, sleeping on floors, living on instant noodles. To keep spirits up, Jack drew from his love of kung fu novels, giving everyone nicknames from legendary warrior tales by author Jin Yong. Jack's nickname was Feng Qing Yang, a reclusive, unpredictable swordmaster who trains young heroes. He wasn't just a teacher anymore. He was a master gathering disciples. He called this new venture Alibaba. Why Alibaba? He was in a San Francisco coffee shop and asked the waitress if she knew of Alibaba. "Yes, open sesame," she said. He went outside and asked 20 more people. Everyone knew the story. It was global, easy to pronounce, and started with A, so it would always top any list. Perfect. But a great name and passionate team weren't enough. They needed money and expertise. That's when Joe Tsai walked into that cramped, smelly apartment. Joe was Jack's complete opposite, a Taiwanese-American, Yale-educated lawyer and investor with a prestigious Hong Kong firm, earning $700,000 yearly. A friend had told him about this crazy guy in Hangzhou with a big vision. Joe was immediately struck by Jack's energy, the sparks in his eyes, and the absolute devotion of his team. He saw not just a leader, but the glue holding everything together. He went back to Hong Kong and told his pregnant wife he wanted to quit his high-paying job to join this unknown startup for just $600 a year. She thought he'd lost his mind, but after visiting the apartment and seeing the energy firsthand, she agreed. Joe Tsai became the 19th team member, bringing the financial discipline and international legal structure Jack desperately needed. He was the calm, methodical mind grounding Jack's wild creativity. With Joe aboard, they were ready for real investors. Their first Silicon Valley trip was a disaster, rejected everywhere. But Joe had a Goldman Sachs connection, a woman named Shirley Lin. She flew to Hangzhou and, like Joe, was captivated not by the business plan, which barely existed, but by Jack and his team. She saw them working 24/7 in that stinking apartment and was moved. Goldman Sachs decided to invest, leading a $5 million round, a huge vote of confidence. But the real game-changer came months later. Through a connection, Jack got a Beijing meeting with one of the world's most powerful investors, Masayoshi Son, SoftBank's founder, who'd made a fortune with an early Yahoo bet. Jack spoke for maybe 5 minutes, laying out his vision. He didn't even mention revenue or business models. Son was so impressed by Jack's animal smell and the look in his eye that he interrupted. He wanted to invest $40 million. Think about that. After endless rejections, Jack was suddenly being offered more money than he knew what to do with. In a move that shocked everyone, Jack declined the $40 million. He told Son it was too much. "I didn't know how to use it, and there would definitely be problems," he said. He counter-offered to take just $20 million for a smaller stake. Son agreed with 2 words: "Go ahead." That $20 million from SoftBank was the fuel Alibaba needed. It gave them a long runway, just as the dot-com bubble was about to burst. While other internet companies crashed and burned, Alibaba had a full tank. And they were going to need every drop, because a shark had just entered their waters. In 2002, eBay, the undisputed king of consumer e-commerce, made its move into China. They didn't start from scratch. They bought the leading local player, a company called EachNet, founded by a brilliant Harvard grad named Xiao Yibo. With that single move, eBay instantly controlled 90% of the Chinese market. They were the global giant with massive resources and a proven model. It looked like game over. Jack saw this as an existential threat. He knew eBay's powerful sellers could eventually invade his business-to-business space. He told his team, "I need to stop eBay to protect Alibaba." Many within Alibaba thought he was crazy. The business-to-business operation was only just becoming profitable. How could they afford to open a new front and battle a titan like eBay? But Jack was unshakable. He secretly assembled a small team, hiding them back in the original Lakeside Gardens apartment where it all started. Their mission: build a consumer marketplace to compete with eBay. He told them to keep it completely secret. To maintain perspective, he had the team do handstands. He called this new project Taobao, meaning hunting for treasure. On May 10, 2003, Taobao launched. At exactly the same time, crisis struck. The SARS virus was spreading across China. One Alibaba employee was suspected of having it, forcing the entire 400-person office into home quarantine. It was terrifying and uncertain, but like so many times before, what looked like disaster became opportunity. Confined to their homes, millions of Chinese people turned to the internet for information, connection, and, for the first time, shopping. The SARS outbreak unexpectedly turbocharged Chinese e-commerce. The battle for China was on. Jack famously declared, "eBay may be a shark in the ocean, but I am a crocodile in the Yangtze River. If we fight in the ocean, we lose. But if we fight in the river, we win." And he fought like a crocodile. First, Taobao was completely free. eBay, following its global model, charged sellers listing fees and sales commissions. For Chinese merchants allergic to fees, this was night and day. eBay was so confident, they dismissed this strategy, with an executive publicly stating, "Free is not a business model." They completely underestimated their opponent. Second, Taobao was built for China, by Chinese people. The website was vibrant, colorful, even a bit chaotic, just like a real Chinese marketplace. eBay's site, by contrast, had clean, minimalist Western design. To Chinese users, it just looked empty. Taobao also introduced a chat tool called Ali Wang Wang, letting buyers and sellers haggle and build relationships in real time, just like in physical stores. Jack understood that communication was the bedrock of commerce. But eBay's fatal mistake, the one that sealed their fate, was technical. In 2004, trying to standardize their global platform, eBay executives in San Jose decided to migrate Chinese website servers from China to the United States. The result was catastrophic. The site became incredibly slow for Chinese users, plagued by delays and timeouts. Every change, even fixing a typo, had to go through a bureaucratic system in California and could take weeks or months. Taobao, meanwhile, was nimble and could adapt to market changes in hours. eBay was a jumbo jet trying to land in a schoolyard, and it was crashing. The final puzzle piece was payments. Jack knew trust was the biggest e-commerce hurdle. People were scared to send money to online strangers. So in October 2003, just 5 months after launching Taobao, Alibaba rolled out Alipay. It was simple escrow. Buyer's money was held by Alipay and only released to the seller after the buyer confirmed receiving goods and being satisfied. It was revolutionary trust building, so primitive at first that customers faxed bank slips to the office for manual confirmation. But it worked. It solved the single biggest friction point. By 2005, Taobao had overtaken eBay in market share. The unbeatable shark had been defeated by the crocodile in its own river. eBay quietly packed up and left China, surrendering the entire market to Jack Ma. With eBay gone, Alibaba ruled. But now Jack had a new problem: his biggest shareholder, Yahoo. The once friendly relationship soured after Jerry Yang was replaced as CEO by the famously abrasive Carol Bartz, who had zero patience for Jack's style. Tensions simmered for years, with Jack wanting to buy back Yahoo's stake and Yahoo refusing to sell. This tension exploded in 2011 with the Alipay controversy. In a move that shocked the investment world, it was revealed that Jack had transferred ownership of the incredibly valuable Alipay out of Alibaba Group into a separate company he personally controlled. Yahoo and SoftBank cried foul, claiming they hadn't approved the transfer. Jack's defense? He had no choice. The Chinese government was issuing new regulations for online payment companies requiring domestic ownership, and if he didn't act, Alipay would have been shut down. It was a messy he-said-she-said battle played out in the media. Was Jack saving the company or taking its most valuable asset for himself? The book suggests it was a brutally pragmatic move to navigate murky regulations while gaining leverage over foreign shareholders. The dispute eventually settled, but it underscored the immense power Jack now wielded. After years of difficult negotiations, Alibaba finally struck a deal in 2012 to buy back half of Yahoo's stake for over $7 billion. Jack was finally master of his own house again. The stage was set for the biggest stock offering in history. When Alibaba Group went public on the New York Stock Exchange in September 2014, it raised a record-breaking $25 billion. The company was valued at over $230 billion, more than Amazon and eBay combined. The English teacher rejected by KFC was now one of the world's richest men. So how did he do it? The secret lies in what Jack calls the Iron Triangle, 3 pillars supporting the entire Alibaba ecosystem. The first is e-commerce. This isn't just one website, it's a universe. There's Taobao, the sprawling bazaar with over 9 million small storefronts, where you can find everything from a new car to bottled farts. It's free for everyone, making money from advertising. Then there's Tmall, its polished sister site, like a high-end mall for major brands like Nike, Apple, and Burberry. Unlike Amazon, Alibaba holds almost no inventory. It's a platform, a digital landlord, for the world's largest virtual shopping mall. The second is logistics. Every day, tens of millions of packages are generated by Alibaba's sites. But Alibaba doesn't own a single delivery truck. Instead, it orchestrated a massive network of over a dozen private courier companies through a joint venture called Cainiao, meaning, quote, rookie. Cainiao doesn't deliver packages. It delivers data. It's a smart logistics platform, coordinating the entire ecosystem, directing millions of couriers, optimizing routes, ensuring that the 467 million packages generated on a single day like Singles Day actually get delivered. The third, most crucial pillar is finance. This is Ant Financial, Alipay's parent company. What started as simple escrow to build trust has become a financial behemoth. Alipay is a virtual wallet for hundreds of millions of people, handling 3 times PayPal's volume. You can pay utility bills, buy train tickets, or invest spare change in a massive money market fund called Bao, or leftover treasure. Ant Financial is now moving into lending, credit ratings, even banking, with its own internet-only bank called MY Bank. Just as Alibaba exploited traditional retail's inefficiencies, it's now disrupting the slow, state-owned banking system. E-commerce, logistics, and finance. These 3 pillars, all built on a foundation of data, are interconnected. They feed each other, creating a powerful, self-reinforcing ecosystem incredibly difficult for any competitor to challenge. Today, Jack Ma is more than a CEO. He's a global icon, a folk hero in China who shares stages with presidents and movie stars. He's now turning attention to what he calls the 2 H's, health and happiness. He's investing billions in healthcare, environmental protection, and entertainment, including film studios, aiming to make Alibaba the world's biggest entertainment company. But his journey's far from over. The bigger Alibaba gets, the more complex its challenges. It faces fierce competition from rivals like Tencent, with its dominant WeChat social platform, and it must navigate a delicate, ever-shifting relationship with the Chinese government, both partner and potential threat. Jack has a famous mantra for this. Fall in love with the government, but don't marry them. From a boy by Westlake, offering free tours to a titan of global commerce, Jack Ma's story testifies to the power of singular vision. He didn't have the best education, the most money, or the best technology. As he once said, the reason Alibaba survived was because we didn't have any money, we didn't have any technology, and we didn't have a plan. What he had was deep understanding of people, unshakable belief in the underdog's power, and a touch of something special, a touch of Jack magic. As we step back from this incredible story, it's easy to get lost in the staggering numbers, the billions of dollars, the hundreds of millions of customers. But I think the most powerful lessons from Jack Ma's journey are far more human. First, there's the profound lesson about failure. Think about the young man who heard no at every turn. Rejected by Harvard, rejected by KFC, laughed at for his crazy internet ideas. Most people would have given up. We're often taught to fear failure, to see it as final judgment on our abilities. But Jack Ma treated failure as data. It wasn't a verdict, just a result. He collected those rejections not as scars, but as stepping stones. He didn't let them define him, he let them fuel him. He proves that success isn't about avoiding failure, but about having the resilience to stand up one more time than you fall down. The second lesson is about clear, simple philosophy. Jack's mantra, customers first, employees second, shareholders third, sounds almost heretical in a world obsessed with quarterly earnings, but it was his North Star. By focusing relentlessly on creating value for his customers, those small shrimp, he built an ecosystem that became so powerful, so indispensable, that profits naturally followed. He understood that a business isn't a machine for making money. It's a system for creating value. Create enough value for enough people, and the money will find you. This is a timeless principle so many leaders forget. And finally, there's the lesson about vision. When Jack first saw the internet, he didn't just see new technology. He saw a way to connect his world with the rest of the world. He saw a tool to empower the powerless. His vision was never just about building a company. It was about building a community, an ecosystem. He wasn't just selling products. He was selling trust, connection, and opportunity. This is what separates great entrepreneurs from merely successful ones. Successful people build businesses. Great ones build futures. So what can we take from this? For anyone starting out, feeling like an underdog, I think there are 3 simple actions inspired by Jack's journey. 1. Start teaching. Jack was an English teacher and never stopped being one. He taught his team, his customers, and the world about his vision. You don't need to be an expert to teach. Just share what you know. By helping others understand something, you clarify it for yourself and build a following of people who believe in you. 2. Find your void. Jack's journey began when he saw that China was missing from the internet. What's missing in your world? What problem isn't being solved? What group of people isn't being served? Don't look for the next big idea. Look for the next big problem, the next big void. Your greatest opportunity might be hiding in that empty space. 3. Practice intelligent optimism. Jack faced brutal setbacks but always believed the day after tomorrow would be beautiful. This wasn't blind optimism. It was deep-seated belief in his own resilience and his team's power. Believe in the possibility of a better future, but be prepared to fight through the brutal days to get there. That was a summary of Alibaba, the house that Jack Ma built by Duncan Clark. We've journeyed through the incredible highs and challenging lows of one of our time's most fascinating entrepreneurs. But let me be honest with you. A summary like this is like looking at a photograph of a great adventure. You can see the landscape, but you can't feel the wind or smell the air. The real magic of this story is in the details, the human moments, the subtle lessons woven into every chapter. This summary is your map, but the book itself is the territory. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity or inspired you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning a company's history. It's about experiencing the journey of a man who reminds us that our beginnings don't have to define our endings. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if this journey has brought you some value today, a simple click on the like button and a subscription to the channel would mean the world. It tells us we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into another world-changing book from the Billionaire's Bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.